organizational meeting of Education of Superior Local School District is called to order at 5:56 p.m. in the Tarbrook Center Conference Room. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Seoli?
Here.
Mrs. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Leidig?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mrs. Tester?
Here, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, election of the 2025 Board of Education President. Nominations for the 2025 Board of Education President.
I'd like to nominate Andy.
Are we starting?
Nominating for president.
I didn't hear, I didn't.
Yes, I nominated
Say
Andy.
something. Oh, what are we doing? Other,
Whoever, if there's any nominations.
Nikki?
You're nominating Nikki?
Anyone else? Is there a motion to close the nominations?
Motion.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Foley?
So what are we doing here?
Voting for the president.
Yeah, but,
Closing your
We're closing the nominations right now.
oh, okay,
Oh, closing nominations.
Mrs. Foley?
yes.
Mr. Leidig?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Tester?
Yes.
Mrs. Seoli?
And the voting?
Mrs. Seoli votes for?
Nikki.
Mrs. Foley votes for?
Nikki?
Mr. Leidig votes for?
Andy?
Mr. Roberts votes for?
Myself.
Mrs. Tester votes for?
Myself.
Mrs. Tester is elected president of the Board of Education for 2025 and assumes all duties of the office until election of officers in January 2026 organizational meeting.
Okay, and then the nominations for the vice president. I nominate Tippy. Any others?
I'll nominate myself. If you can do that.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
Did you want to add something, Mrs. Foley?
Are we not allowed to discuss it all? How does that work?
You can probably discuss after we close nominations.
Oh,
Right? You moved to close.
Yes.
Mr. Leidig?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Tester?
Yes.
Mrs. Seoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Foley?
I think I'm confused because when we were voting for other things in the past, we took a different approach. So that's why it seemed a little different.
How did we do it in the past?
Remember that one time when we ended up like split 2-2 or something like that? We had, I think it was voting for,
That was for the
That was
rec
for-
board.
for
Yeah.
the rec board. And I didn't think we did it the same way. So that's why I was a little confused on how we were handling this. That's all. I didn't know we were doing multiple nominations. I didn't know if there was more than one nomination. I didn't understand what we were doing for sure. So more than multiple people can be nominated.
Yes.
If that's how we're handling it. We're not closing after one nomination or after. Someone can motion, I guess that's quite, can someone motion to close after a nomination?
After one nomination?
Yeah.
I suppose. You can motion whenever you like.
You don't have to vote, you don't have to approve the motion to close. You can keep it open.
Okay.
That's why we do the roll call.
And then, if I was gonna say that, I didn't want to accept the nomination of vice president, I could say that then? Or just wait for the vote and determine how it turns out?
I would think that if you don't want the nomination, you declare that now, and then we would vote no.
Right.
So is that your intention?
I want the board to decide that. If that makes sense.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Seoli votes for Sydney. Mrs. Foley votes for
Myself.
Mr. Leidig,
Myself.
Mr. Roberts,
Mr. Leidig?
Mrs. Truska.
Mrs. Foley.
Mrs. Foley is elected Vice President of the Board of Election for 2025 and assumes the duties of the office until the election of the officers at the January 2026 organization meeting.
Okay, the time and location of the meetings for 2025. I did have some that I sent in of dates that I knew that people were unavailable.
I won't be here on the 19th of August. I'll be out of
Okay.
town that day. So if we could move that one, like we've done in the past, like either a
Yeah.
week later or
What's the first day of school day?
Well, depends on what you guys decide tonight.
Okay.
August, right
18th.
now, 18th, we're, tentatively scheduled to begin. We'll begin that week, I would imagine.
It seems like the 12th would probably be a good date if everyone's available the 12th, don't you think, to move it up 1 week?
Sure.
That's fine, that's fine.
Was there any other dates that didn't work for anybody? And we can always change these as something, I mean, we've adjusted in the past as needed.
24th is tentative, sorry, June 24th, I saw the asterisk next to it.
Well, it's not falling on the normal third week of, the third Tuesday of the month, correct?
That's for finance.
Right, so
Right.
that we can finalize the fiscal year. We
Okay.
usually keep that to the last Tuesday.
In February, the third Tuesday of February, I'll be in Columbus watching my granddaughters that week, so that's why we asked to move that one up to the 11th.
I'm actually gonna be out on the 24th, but if you can do it without me,
On June 24th?
yeah. I already have something planned. But we can wait until it's closer and
Okay.
see how everyone's life shakes out.
Okay.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
We don't have,
Right, the
yes.
time and date and place of the 2025 board meetings.
Second.
Roll call, please. Or I'm sorry, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Truska,
Yes.
Mrs. Seoli,
Yes.
Mrs. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Leidig.
Yes.
Standing authorizations 2025. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer to establish a board member service fund not to exceed $15,000 for expenses incurred by the board members in the performance of their duties for the 2025 and 2026 fiscal years. Item B, standing authorization checks. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer or their designee to sign all payroll and disbursement checks during 2025. Item C, standing authorization secure advances. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer to secure advances from the county auditor when funds are available and payable to the school district. Item D, standing authorizations investments. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer to invest all district funds at the most productive interest rates when funds are available in accordance with legal requirements. Item E, standing authorizations bills. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer to pay all bills within the limits of the appropriations as bills are received and after merchandise has been received in acceptable condition, services have been completed to satisfaction, or based upon other contractual requirements. Item F, standing authorization bid advertising. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer to advertise for bids as specified by law. Item G, standing authorization appropriations. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer to increase appropriations as needed with subsequent board approval. Item H, standing authorizations federal programs. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent to administer all federal programs in compliance with local, state, and federal regulations required by state and federal regulations. Item I, standing authorizations hiring. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent to hire employees on a contingency basis pending receipt of their criminal history check and temporary personnel as needed in emergency situations or for continuity of services for the district. Such employment to to be presented for board approval no later than the next regular meeting. Item J, standing authorizations minimum wage. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent and chief financial officer to approve state or federal increases in minimum wage rate. Item K, standing authorization purchase agent. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent to serve as purchasing agent for the school district and to spend a maximum of $15,000 without prior approval of the board and allow the superintendent to exceed this limit for bus fuel purchases, district utilities, athletic officials and workers, and special education services. Item L, standing authorization records training representative. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer to serve as public records training representative for the school district for the current term of office as recommended by the chief financial officer. Item M, standing authorization purchase orders. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer to use blanket purchase orders for operational purchases, provided that no such purchase order shall be in an amount in excess of $15,000, and no such blanket purchase order shall extend beyond the end of the fiscal year. Item N, standing authorization extracurricular contracts. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent to enter into contracts with non-teaching and teaching personnel involved in extracurricular activities. Item O, standing authorization professional development. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent or designee to approve professional development for all employees of the school district. Item P, standing authorization professional meetings. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent and chief financial officer to attend professional meetings. Item Q, standing authorization hearing officer. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent or designee to be the hearing officer for discipline hearings. Item R, standing authorization public records rate. The board is asked to set the rate at 10 cents per photocopy, $1 per CD, DVD, and $5 per flash drive for providing a public record to an individual upon request. Item S, standing authorization mileage and meal rate. The board is asked to set the mileage currently at 70 cents per mile and meal reimbursement rates for 2025 at the IRS approved rate. Item T, standing authorization obsolete items. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent and chief financial officer to dispose of and/or to discard or sell obsolete textbooks, library books, materials, and equipment at all schools, departments due to age, condition, and/or beyond repair as necessary throughout the calendar year. Item U, standing authorization capital projects. The board is asked to authorize the chief financial officer to post interest from capital project accounting balances to the capital project fund. Item V, standing authorization bad debt elimination. The board is asked to authorize the CFO to write off uncollectible student debt from unpaid fees for students that have graduated or withdrawn from the district. Item W, standing authorization non-routine use of school buses. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent to authorize non-routine use of school buses, vans, and bus operators per Ohio Revised Code. Item X, standing authorization non-routine use of district facilities. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent to authorize non-routine use of district facilities. Item Y, standing authorization calendar adjustments. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent to make adjustments to the district calendar while adhering to state regulations. Item Z, standing authorization Perry Area Joint Recreation District. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent and chief financial officer to approve the continued use of Perry Schools buildings and sports fields on a priority basis for Perry Area Joint Recreation District youth sports programming for 2025. Item AA, standing authorization support organizations athletics. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent and chief financial officer to recognize Perry Youth Football League, Girls Youth Wrestling, and Mighty Mites Youth Wrestling as official support organizations of the Perry Local Schools Athletics Department. Item BB, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tester?
Yes.
Mrs. Seoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Leidig?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Other business. Item A, legal counsel 2025. The board is asked to approve Squire Patton Boggs and Jingo Bear as legal counsel for the Perry Local School District and authorize participation in the McGowan and Markling Company School Law Hotline and other necessary services. Item B, media designation 2025. The board is asked to designate the News Herald and/or Perry Local School District website as the official resources for the publication of those notices required by law for the Perry Local School District. Item C, OSBA membership 2025. The board is asked to approve the OSBA membership for January 1st through December 31st, 2025. Item D, legal assistance fund membership 2025. The board is asked to approve the OSBA legal assistance fund membership for January 1st through December 31st, 2025. Item E, OSBA 2025 capital conference, delegate and alternate. The board is asked to appoint one board member as the Perry Local Schools OSBA delegate and one board member as the alternate for the fall capital conference 2025. Do we do that now? Okay. Does anyone want to do that? Be the delegate or alternate for the OSBA conference?
Do you want to swap this year? Okay, we'll swap.
Okay, so the Board of Education appoints Kathleen Cioli as the Perry Local Schools OSBA delegate and Jesse Leidick as the alternate for the Fall Capital Conference 2025. Item F, appointment of legislative liaison 2025. The Board of Education is asked to appoint one board member as Perry Local Schools legislative liaison for 2025. Do you want to do it again, Jesse?
That's fine.
The board appoints Mr. Leidick as the Perry Schools legislative liaison for 2025. Item G, Eastern Lake County Chamber of Commerce membership 25-26. The Board of Education is asked to approve the annual Eastern Lake County Chamber of Commerce membership. Item H, approval of other business 2025. Oh, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
Discussion, I should have asked when I asked if anyone, Jesse, do you want to do it again? If anyone else wanted to do it also, sorry, I was reading
Sure.
through.
No worries.
Appointed.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Seoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Leidick?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Chowski?
Yes. Item 7, committee appointments 2025. Item A, the board is asked to appoint Bryce Tischer and Tom Adby to serve as the Perry Local Schools representatives on the Perry Area Joint Recreation Board for 2025. Is that,
Those two are fine to continue on with that?
Yes.
I haven't heard
I,
otherwise.
I spoke to Tom today to confirm. He's like, absolutely, he's 100% in.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I haven't heard otherwise, so I'm gonna,
said the two of them work really well together.
Good.
So,
good. Okay, so the Board of Education appoints Bryce Tischer and Tom Adby as the Perry Local Schools representatives on the Perry Area Recreation Board for 2025. Item B, committee appointments. The Board of Education is asked to designate a representative to serve on the committees listed for 2025. So, does anyone want to change their committee?
Does the facilities council even exist?
That's what I was gonna ask you. Do we even need it? And do we have it? We had a meeting at the
We
beginning.
had
of the year.
one and then that was that.
That was it.
I think it's dissolved.
I think it's dissolved.
Okay, so we'll strike that committee then?
Um,
Do we need a
I will
motion?
say this, though, I think there needs to be some sort of, whatever one of our committees would make sense to kind of pick up the piece of, maybe it's wellness, I don't know, that includes the things with the PAC, because we've had so many conversations with the PAC in the past about the operational expenses that come along with it, what its purpose is it for the community, is it for our students, is it a combination? What does that look like moving forward? I think it's important to make sure we don't forget about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so whatever we need to do to make sure that it's in our conversations, I just think that that's important to make sure we have conversations about it.
I think wellness makes sense. So put it there.
Yeah, I mean, we did have,
Maybe it needs to be a topic in wellness.
yeah, 'cause, I mean, we had I think a very good
We did.
conversation
Yeah.
about it and, various aspects of it. So I don't think it's something that should just disappear, but I just think that a overall committee dedicated to it, I think you're right, it probably best suits.
I agree.
itself in wellness.
And we did it because so many changes took place over there with moving the weight room, restructuring the upstairs room to the cheer room and everything, and then the downstairs weight room. It was kind of all redone, and we heard, we got some calls from the community. Also because after COVID, things had closed down during COVID, so it was kind of that, what do we need to do
Right.
to make sure the PAC is what we want it to be? So I think keeping it as a topic under wellness makes sense at this point.
Absolutely.
Not unlike what Jim Smith does with maintenance, and too, we could also have, Mr. Rockwell come in and give a report at some point as well.
And things like making sure there's things in place, so if the equipment is broken, what do you do as a user of
Put a
the,
sign on it,
what's that?
put a sign on it.
Yeah, out of order, I mean,
Yeah,
if
that's
you give me a stack of paper, I'll take a look there when I leave. No, I'm kidding, but things like that, like what are the procedures, procedurally, so that we are aware, because if a community member reaches out and says, machine's broken or something's not functioning, what do we do? I just wanna make sure we have all that information.
Any other committee changes? Everyone want to stay where they're at then?
I do have a question about the BAC.
Okay,
Is Matt still?
Mhm.
Yes, okay, good.
He comes.
There's not too many NFL games.
Well, we won't meet that often.
So the other one I want to inquire about is the governmental affairs. I know that each government entity has their people that go and represent, but who has the oversight? Who schedules the meetings for governmental affairs? What's the history there?
It trades off.
It's
So
rotated.
1 year it'll be the township, 1 year it'll be North Perry, 1 year it'll be us. And
Who decides,
it is not us.
who decides where the rotation sits?
At the meeting, we decide, and then whoever, for example, if the township's doing it, Karen sets the meetings. If North Perry's doing it, your mayor does.
So like,
If the village is doing it, Mr. Gessler.
yeah, because I remember going to meetings there. And then this past year, was it North Perry? And there was one meeting there, and then the next meeting was canceled, and the weather was bad, I think.
There was two, there were two,
Two, one in April?
one early in January, one in April.
Okay, then that was it.
yeah, because we probably decided to meet after that first meeting.
So,
Find another one coming.
So our organizational meeting, I think maybe was after that first government affairs meeting in January last year. So that's why it seems like there was only one, because there was only one on this cycle that actually met for everyone who's appointed that committee at our
do
organization.
we think it's our turn? Has it been a while since the district has hosted those?
Um,
Because I don't think we've done it since I've been on the board.
Yeah, I could find out for you and let you know. There is a rotation, it's
Okay.
supposed to rotate every single year. I think, the confusion is North Perry canceled because of the weather, the December one.
Yep.
And that should have been a topic in that as to,
Who's
the
next?
So
schedule.
there's no meeting to decide when the next meeting will be.
Whoever stops is gonna.
Because realistically, the first government meeting should have already happened this year. It's usually the first, 2 weeks of January. For the-
Would it be after all
So it might be the
organizational
township for
meetings?
us.
Take place in
Yeah.
each,
That's right.
roughly? So, it's
But
probably our turn, because
Probably.
since I've been on the board, I don't think we've hosted.
Not
This is
since I've been
my,
on.
this will be my 9th year.
So, no,
We have?
Yeah.
We'll get it going.
I feel like we've done it twice since we've been in rotation twice.
Well,
At
somehow we
least
gotta
once,
find out,
Maybe twice.
because that's another one that, I think it could be a great, committee. It needs to happen.
It's
Yeah.
typically during the week at like 8 AM,
Mhm.
Yeah, it's on Monday. usually.
Mondays. Yeah, 8 AM, so that's kind of important. We should make it then.
Okay. So are there any other changes that anyone want to make? So is there a motion to approve the committee appointments as is?
So moved.
Second.
We already discussed, so, and roll call please.
Mrs. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Leidig,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mrs. Truster,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealy.
Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn the organizational meeting?
So moved. Second.
Roll call please.
Mr. Leidig,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mrs. Truster.
Yes.
Mrs. Sealy.
Yes.
And Mrs. Foley.
Yes.
Okay, now we have the regular meeting. The regular meeting of the Board of Education of Perry Local School District is called to order at 6:20 PM in the Tarbrook Center Conference Room. Roll call please.
Mrs. Sealy. Here. Mrs. Foley,
Here.
Mr. Leidig,
Here.
Mr. Roberts.
Here.
Mrs. Truster.
Here. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, I hereby move that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering the employment of a public employee or official. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Leidig,
Executive.
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes.
Mrs. Truster.
Yes.
Mrs. Sealy.
Yes.
Administrative updates, Dr. Thompson?
Thank you, Mrs. Truster. As you may know by now, if you look around, January is Board Member Recognition Month. And the theme of this year is superheroes, because our board members are all super at the work they do. And thank Gina for adding to the theme of the evening. And We're here, we wanted to take a few minutes to just celebrate our board members for their dedication and commitment to the district and students. The dedication, commitment, and vision of our school board members shape the future of our schools and students. Their focus is always on helping all our students be successful in their future endeavors. Celebrating School Board Recognition Month is one way to say thanks for all you do. Serving as a link between the community and classroom, school board members are elected to establish the policies that provide the framework for our public schools. Our Perry Board is responsible for an annual budget of over $25 million, 1,400 students, 230 employees, and 3 schools. And again, we just want to take a moment to thank and express our appreciation, along with the Ohio School Board Association, for your work. You have this beautiful certificate. I'm sure you will put up in your class's place in your home. And but no, thank you so much for your work, everyone.
I'm not gonna get up and hand them out.
So would you like to?
Sit down.
Sorry.
Well, you can bring each up individually and shake hands. And
We'll take pictures.
Yeah.
So does the News Herald.
Just a few other items real quick. I can't not mention Bill Miller, our welding teacher at that new program that we were able to get started this year. Was named the Cleveland Region District 10's Instructor of the Year by American Welding Society. Congratulations to Bill, who was named Instructor of the Year for our region. A former Perry High School student himself, this is his second time winning this award. He first won it in 2011 while working for Lincoln Electric's welding school. Again, and I know we continue to see great things. I think Bill did an unheard of job the first semester. Dr. Milcheski, where every single kid passed the certification piece.
15 out of 15. Yes.
15 out of 15. So those are pretty good numbers. And great job. We're just so lucky to have them. And thank you for all your work in partnership with Lincoln Electric and Lake Erie College to make that a reality. And we'll keep pushing. We have other industry credentials on the horizon. I think cybersecurity is something we're investigating now, and then some other things. So we'll keep it going. Boy, another wonderful district spelling bee. It's such an exciting event, and the drama is thick all the time. And I'm always, you always sit there when you're watching the spelling bee, and under your breath. I was out by the second round. I'm sorry. These kiddos went 20 rounds. Last year, I think they went 35. And the funny thing is, we see it's the same faces year in, year out. It's pretty impressive what these kids are able to do. But this year, Alex Searson won his 3rd Perry School District Spelling Bee. After 20 rounds, he correctly spelled the word graphite to win the championship round. Coming in second was 7th grader Isabella Stratford, and coming in third was 4th grader Penny Chongris. Alex will now head to Lake County Spelling Bee, which takes place on Monday, February 3rd at Lake Erie College. And of course, a special thanks to Amy Dasinger and Tammy Roberts for organizing this wonderful event every year. Great time. Obviously, this is budget bill season. The legislation has been back in session. They passed a few bills that with the governor's signature, we'll have to get ourselves updated, and they'll come into play in April. And so we're on top of those. Obviously, you'll see a number of Neola first readings for updating our current policies, but we do have some work to do based on some of the votes and some of the bills that have not passed at the legislature. But the big one, obviously, the budget bill, we expect the governor's draft to come out end of January, beginning of February at the latest. Mr. Gallant is keeping in close contact down there in Columbus. The word out on the street is that the Senate and the House of Republicans, or House of Representatives, are going to act solo and build their own budgets and not really kind of look at the governors, but we'll see how this all plays out. By June, they have to have something in place. And so we know what we need. They know what we need. We're communicating well, and and we'll kind of see where the governor's budget is, and then try to determine whether we have to play offense or defense when we get down there. Good news, maybe, Representative Callender is on the Finance Committee for the House. We expect Senator Serino to be the Finance President on the Senate side, so those are direct connections. We'll continue to work through our legislators and try to make sure our voices are heard. And that's all that I have, I believe, in my administrative update.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson.
Yep.
Public participation, Mrs. Resnick?
Do you need to make your statement about?
No, I think you
Okay.
know.
All right, Maria Rusnak, 3975 River Road. I wanted to talk through the standing authorizations, particularly point AA, in the supporting organizations for athletics. And so I'm the board president for Perry Mighty Mites Wrestling. And I just wanted to identify that Girls Youth Wrestling is not a DBA of Perry Mighty Mites. It's not an organization, and therefore I would recommend that we strike that. We are providing instruction for girls and boys under the Mighty Mites organization name, so that's all.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Is there anyone else? Okay, board president's report. Item A, approval of contract extension. I move we extend the employment and all current contract terms of Jennifer Capo, Chief Financial Officer of the Perry Local School District, and issue her a 5-year contract effective August 1st, 2026 through July 31st, 2031. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Leidig,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Metzger,
Yes.
Mrs. Seoli,
Yes.
Mrs. Foley.
Yes.
Item 7, consent agenda. Item A, review of minutes. The board is asked to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of December 17th, 2024. The board hereby waives public reading of these minutes and shall post them accordingly. Item B, donations. The board is asked to accept the following donation from the source indicated for deposit into the account and/or department listed as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
And he's got it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Metzger,
Yes.
Mrs. Seoli,
Yes.
Mrs. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Leidig.
Yes.
Dr. Thompson, Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Under Superintendent's Report, Personnel, approval of contract extensions. The board is asked to extend the contracts for the employees listed as recommended by the local superintendent. Under B, Personnel, approval of appointment, the board is asked to approve the individuals noted for the position indicated pending successful completion of required employment paperwork, background check, and certification as recommended by the local superintendent. Under C, Personnel, change of a position, the board is asked to approve the temporary change of position for the individual noted for the position indicated as recommended by the local superintendent. D, we have an approval of additional hours, so the board is asked to approve additional hours for the individual noted as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer and local superintendent. These additional hours will cease once a new payroll specialist is in place. E, Personnel, approval of appointment substitutes. The board is asked to approve the individual noted for the 2024-25 daily substitute position listed, pending successful completion of required employment paperwork, certification, and background check as recommended by the local superintendent. Under F, Personnel, approval of appointments, volunteer nurse. The board is asked to approve the individual listed as a volunteer for the 2005 PHS band trip to Orlando, Florida, as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. G, Personnel, approval of appointment, student worker, communications. The board is asked to approve the employment of the student listed for the 24-25 position and rate of pay indicated not to exceed 700 hours as recommended by the local superintendent and director of communications. Under H, Personnel, approval, appointment, corrective action. The board is asked to approve the corrective action noted previously approved on May 21st, 2024, as recommended by the local superintendent and chief financial officer. I, approval of out-of-state field trip, Chicago, Illinois. Change of date. The board is asked to approve the change of dates for the out-of-state field trip for PSL students to Chicago, previously approved on November 19th, as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. This was canceled due to inclement weather and originally scheduled December 5th through 8th. Has been rescheduled to March 6th through 9th. J, approval of resolutions, ELCCC 2025. The board is asked to approve the resolutions listed recognizing the Eastern Lake County Chamber of Commerce 2025 Business of the Year Award and Beacon Award recipients as recommended by local superintendent. Again, we will, with these recognitions, we will provide them with certificates of commendation. K, approval of 2025-26 district calendar. The board is asked to approve the 25-26 calendar as recommended by the local superintendent. And L, approval of policy first reading. The board is asked to consider the following revised board policies as a first reading for future action as recommended by the local superintendent. Draft policies available for review below. M, approval of policy second reading. The board is asked to adopt the new revised board policy listed as recommended by the local superintendent. And N, approval of resolutions, special education model policies and procedures. The board is asked to approve the special education model policy and procedures resolution as recommended by the local superintendent and director of student services. This concludes my superintendent's report.
Is there a motion for items A through O except E?
I was going to mention it.
So moved.
Yeah.
There's
I'm not
second?
voting on the
Oh, I thought there was a motion.
I did.
Oh,
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
calendar. That's in there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was confused, so I had called today to discuss it. I thought that we were eliminating the half days. So a little confused because the memorandum we did, understanding some of it took place immediately and some of it's not taking place until 2026 is when it starts.
Oh,
There's
this
some
is construction
confusion.
2026?
Correct.
Yeah.
So there's confusion there.
Oh, I thought that that was going to be for next year's.
No, I apologize for that. You know, when we were working through the proposal and the requested changes, it was always the intent that the reduction in number of student days and the taking away those 2 half days was going to be effective when the extensions came into effect, which means next year is still part of that, original contractual agreement that we made. And we would function under the 180 days with the 2 half days for next year, with this going into effect the following year. So I apologize for that confusion, but that was the intent of the language.
The stipend went into effect immediately though. So that's.
Well, the stipend is not part of the negotiated agreement.
No.
The stipend was something that we did to, one, provide, our appreciation to the staff for what they're doing based on, things have changed somewhat a little bit since we agreed to that 3-year contract back 2.5 years ago. And also, to help and ask them to consider doing an extension.
I guess I would want to ask them, do we want to adjust the calendar? I know there's the authority to adjust the calendar once we approve it, you can always change it. But
You can't change anything that has been bargained unless we do a memorandum of understanding or agreement with the PCTA.
right, I'm saying, should we pull the calendar tonight and then look at it again? Is that a point of contention since we thought something?
Is there a way to change it?
That's what he's saying, we can't, but we can either
I
not
mean,
vote on it.
yeah, but is there a way, like, in your opinion, if we push it?
I don't know, I'd have to meet with the PCTA exec, and talk about it, and then they'll go to their OEA and determine, whether that's something that they would have to take to their membership for another vote to say, do you want this to happen next year? And so I guess it would be, it would be another proposal.
But it's going to go into effect 26, 27.
Right, that was the intent, that's from the beginning, that was the intention. If you recall, we had talked, and then we came back and had some more discussion about, from a 1 year to a 2 year. Getting the 2 year meant that we were able to make some adjustments, we made some adjustments to the calendar at that point. And so it was all based on, when those extensions went into effect, is when that would go into effect. That was the intent. We certainly I can, if that's something, you want me to discuss with PCTA, or whether they're willing to even, consider that, would be something up to them.
I don't know. What do you think? Anyone? I mean, I know that those half days are a bone of contention with families that have a difficult time with it. I don't know if going back and opening it back up, is that going to create more problems than it solves?
I don't either. I mean,
Find out, pull it, just find out. There's no harm in going back to the table, do that. I mean, delays what, approval for a short period of time? Or it gets amended and, parents are happy.
Well, I would only ask if, are there other things as well? Let's get them all out so, we can get this thing in place so we can start planning for next year. That's all I would ask is that, is there, because in the calendar's here, it's time to make a decision now. We can certainly wait another month. And I don't know. I'd have to have a discussion. I can't tell you if there's, that would be a memorandum of agreement that I think we'd have to make.
But supposing we could do either way, so we could either pull the calendar and have a discussion, or even if we approve the calendar, you could still have the discussion and change the calendar.
You can change the calendar anytime, right? But if you're gonna change something that's been bargained and agreed upon,
Right.
you've gotta go to the table and have that happen. Okay, so I am thinking through this, I would imagine PCTA is going to, discuss whether they wanna have that at all. And then whether they want it, and then they would, if we propose that, they would have to take it to their membership and have a vote to whether they would accept that change for the 25-26 school year.
And the issue here are the 2 half-days.
Yeah, we traded the 2 half-days and turned them that were bargained to allow teachers to have the half-day each at the end of the semester, where kids go home early. And to make those full days, we took 1 instructional day away. And so we took 179, we turned it into 179 instructional days. So there's really no instructional time lost for kids than the current. But it's just that it's 1 less day that teachers have to come to work. And it's 2 less days that parents would have to do whatever they need to do when it's a half day. And there's early dismissal for those kids leaving. That's what that is.
And I think that, for me, I thought when we came up with that proposal and voted on it, that it was applicable to this coming school year. And then when I saw this, I realized it was something.
Do you want all the language in the proposal to be applicable next year? Not just the calendar part? Because there's other language in there that's not applicable. We don't think it is. We want to change that. Some of the language, so you want it all to try to be applicable, then that would take a memorandum of agreement to change the current contract.
That wasn't what I was suggesting just now. I was just saying
Well-
why I noticed the calendar was different than what we had talked about.
But I'm asking, did you assume all of the language in there was applicable immediately?
I assumed the calendar was, because that was what came up in conversation was,
Okay.
we're gonna be eliminating 2 half-days. That specific topic came up, so the rest of it I knew was part of their contract, but I didn't know what the calendar was coming up.
Like, all the compensation changes, other than the stipend, were meant for
The next
the
round of.
year, not next year, the year
Correct.
after and the year after. So that
the
was
calendar,
clear.
Their cycle.
We weren't changing any compensation pieces for next year kind of contract. That was clear, right? I mean,
I think so.
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to speak for anyone else.
Yeah. Okay. And that, that was kind of the point.
It was my understanding that this was not something that everyone is necessarily happy with, and I think that, in my opinion, I would just move forward with 1 more year and know that the next year it's gonna change, and it's, rather than opening up negotiations and going through votes and all that stuff, And I'm fine with it, personally, my opinion, I'm fine with it this year, knowing that it's gonna change next year. I thought it was this year too, but is neither here nor there at this point, like it's what it is, and so if anyone wants to make a motion to pull this and table it, then that would be the next procedure if you want to, and then we could vote, or we can continue on with, that's the two options. So you can pull it, someone can make a motion to pull it and you can vote, or we can continue on with it as it is and make the vote on that.
I have another calendar question.
Okay.
So I know we always talk about the disparity of dates, right? The first half or second half, which is why we don't move the dates later in August and all that stuff. Something I know like this year, I think it's come up in the past. So I know in the high school, so they had, I believe state, I could be wrong, but I believe state testing was the December 9th through 13th.
And of course, exams.
And then you follow that up with finals on the 19th and 20th. So 7 out of those 10 days, these kids were just tested. So I know from parents that I spoke with and even my own children, the mental fatigue was just, all we're doing is testing. You prep for all of that stuff and the state testing. You feel like they're not in the best headspace or, maybe they don't get enough review in class before the actual final to give them that time to just kind of regroup. So, and I know this has been like this in the past and maybe in other districts. And what about pushing the end of the first semester until the week after? So if you look at this calendar, it would be the 5th through 9th. So you come back to school the 5th, you have your couple days of review, refresh after your brain and body has been refreshed from over break. And then you get in there, you review with your teachers, and you put the students in the best position to succeed and test that week. And then you start, fresh the 13th with the second semester. And then that actually puts a different weight on your days as well.
Actually, not to interrupt, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
There's less time to prepare for end of course exams in the second semester based on what the state window requires the test.
Right.
We have more time for kids to prepare for end of course exams in the first semester, even though we have less days.
Sure.
And then, Mr. Purcell, if you or Dr. Mendez, if you want to, and again, I hear you. There are a lot of districts that are not on block scheduling, that it's still called traditional scheduling, where they're going to go to winter break and spend 2 weeks or so or more off, and then come back for 8 days and then do their finals. And, we intentionally changed the calendar to prevent that. The whole point was to give them a fresh break and conclude a course like college semester, bam, at that winter break where they're done, and then they come back and have a fresh start right off the bat in the second semester with a new course and then new classes. At the time, that last 3 or 4 days before winter break was very difficult to maintain a high level of instructional practices going on. I saw way too many elf movies and things going on because your kids are done, parents are done, everybody's into that mode of leaving, and you're going to drive kids instructionally with no culminating end. I'll see you in 3 weeks for the final, but we're going to work right up to that end. It was very difficult to maintain a high level of engagement. And so we love finals at the high school level because that kept kids engaged and driven to, continue to study, continue to work hard to meet that final or that end of course exam, because, that an end of course exam is a pathway to graduation. It's kind of important. We felt the whole reason we changed the schedule was to make that happen. So if you want to go back to the way it was, and we can even look at block scheduling if you don't want to take the college model and you want to go into traditional scheduling and give 9 classes a day, where kids do that for 180 days a year. We intentionally went away from that because not for a high-end kid, but for an average kid, we feel like that's too heavy of a load all at one time, that you're going to cover 7 courses all year long, where you can manage 2 or 3 courses, 2 cores and 1 regular course, and then have it 3 courses. It gives you a better ability to focus on less content at a time. There's I love, I love block scheduling. I mean, I do, I'm sorry. It's hard for me to talk the other way. I did my doctorate on scheduling part of it, so I have my biases, so I'm, where I'm gonna be on it. I think it's a favorable schedule. I don't like state testing, I don't like the dates. I don't like the excuse we get that because federal mandates require us to be able to, record and their results by June 15th. I think that it drives me crazy. I've expressed that at the state level. But, part of the system is not our choice. We have to live with the system we're given at the state. And I think this schedule at the high school serves it well, the best I can do. Now, maybe somebody can do better. I give them a shot. That'd be great. But I don't know how I could advocate for anything
Well, I
else.
think
And I
that's-
appreciate your questions, but
I think that's the key. You just said high school, because we keep talking about college schedule. And that's really only applicable to maybe our seniors that are going off to college. So it's really not a calendar that we would say, it's great for college kids, sure, but we have K through 11th grade, which is, if we're basing our information on percentage and data, this would be targeted for a very small population of our students. If we're gonna call it a college.
And
schedule.
how does the
That's all I'm
semesters
saying.
impact the elementary? Is there any
That's
real,
what I know.
I mean, there's no impact. The semester,
No, that's
I
my
mean,
point. So
They
we're
go
not
all year
saying
long,
that
they're
this is a-
self-contained, so there's no, the schedule when you talk at the elementary level is about giving them some breaks, right? Give them some time, let them get a couple breaks. Let's face it, we are in partnership or relationship with our community that work because they, childcare is extremely expensive, and there's no question that when they can, when we can have and be educating their children while they're working, and they're not paying somebody to watch their children, that's a benefit. It's a mutual benefit. And that's what the half days, that's the point of contention I understand from the half days is you're causing parents to have an issue where they have to get out of the routine and they have to break that cycle and find somewhere for their kid to be that last half day. And that was my understanding of what the problem with that was, right? So the elementary, it's about when they start, when they finish, and any breaks in between, right? And the semesters don't really impact them. They're going on winter break, they're coming back to the same teacher, and they're gonna continue on where they are. The diagnostics are still gonna happen. Middle school, you all know what middle school is like. This is when kids are going through exploratory time. There's the middle school concept, there's a junior high concept. How are we gonna hold kids back? When do they start taking algebra? When are they gonna start taking credit-bearing courses? Because what we're talking about is credit-bearing courses and how those are gonna meet their graduation requirements and prepare them for college, workforce of the military. And so, there's never been any argument that the current calendar is designed and driven by the high school kind of scenario. There's no question it is.
I think that no matter when you have testing and of course exams and the final exams, it's gonna be something that's gonna burn kids out a little bit. I mean, I think that that's gonna happen. No one likes testing. No one likes, I don't know anybody. I mean, very few people actually enjoy taking a test. I know from our perspective, we see the impact on our kids and their circles and we hear from them. I think that to go from looking at if we extended over the break, I think that the best people to answer the impact in that are the teachers in the schools that see the effects of it both ways, or the research that has shown the data on it. I think there's a pro and con to either. I mean, yeah, it would be nice to stretch it out and not have kids right before Christmas when but they're gonna be burned out no matter when they take finals. I mean, even colleges that start back after and take finals after. What the problem is the state testing and the unrealistic dates that they set with the state testing, and we're tied to it. So until that changes, there's not going to be a good solution, because I don't know that my kids would enjoy Christmas break, or any kids are going to enjoy winter break, if they're going back to a test. The whole time you're thinking, I have to study, I've got to keep on this, then nothing's fresh in your brain anymore. And yeah, the long-term goal of education is to make you retain the knowledge, but not in a way that you're tested. It's in an applicable way. So testing kind of goes against all of that, and it's just in its nature.
Sure, but that's what the couple days or 2 or 3 days worth of review, because I think they get maybe 2 days now, maybe in between to review.
I think probably every teacher is different, every classroom is
Sure.
different, and there's a lot of independent work and stuff, but I think if you take, I mean, if you look at next year's calendar and how many days we have off for winter break. 10 days, does that include the weekends?
No.
So 10 days plus 4 weekend days? So you're 2 solid weeks of not being in the classroom with nothing, I mean, 2 weeks in not being in the classroom and learning and being involved in that, and then going back to it and being like, okay, now let's see what you know. I don't know that that's gonna give the kids the best advantage either. I don't know if, I mean, there's
It
different
might-
thoughts
it
on
might not.
either. I
mean,
don't know.
Some kids might benefit, some kids might not.
Our kids, 65+% of our kids are participating in activities. The band kids come here in July and spend a week. And then August 1st, 65% of our kids in high school begin their athletic competition. Actually, it starts in July now. I think they moved it up, didn't they? Certain sports. I think it started in July.
31st or 1st, I'm not exactly sure.
And then and then I think our golf season's almost over by the time our school starts, which they love because they can go out and play 18 holes. They have time and they can do a lot of tournament kind of things. And so our kids show up August 1st. And then they run all the way through, and we're on Christmas break. They aren't, if they're in a winter activity. They're coming, I mean, I don't know that do we ever stop? I don't know. And then guess what? And then we got weight training and all the off-season stuff that happens in the PAC. Our kids are here all year long. They are. I mean, a majority of them. I really believe that. And I think it's great. But it's amazing what our kids accomplish and how dedicated our families and our kids are to growing academically, athletically, and personally, what they do. And then all the community service and the hours and hours they spend. Again, I know I'm going crazy, but it's like we're focused on a calendar, but these kids never stop. They never stop. And it's amazing. I'm so proud of them, what they accomplish, what they do. So.
My last 2 cents. So to your point, Jesse, I don't think there's a quick fix for
Sure.
what we're talking about in terms of the January coming back and changing this. But forward thinking in the future, not tonight talking about it, but at some point, if we ever wanted to consider continuing with the block style and having it like an every other day, where your core subjects you have all year, but you have them every other day for 80 or 90 minutes like they do in some districts. Black and gold days, whatever you want to call them, sorry, to our neighboring district. But there's also a point to be made for the students who then take first semester, have a math course, and then don't have math again for another year, right? So you talk about being away from learning and being disengaged from something. There's also a disadvantage to having a block schedule where you don't have a course that builds upon each other for a year in advance. So
But if
taking
they
the
want-
ACT and you have it in math for 12 months, that could be a
Well,
problem.
the counter to that is they also have an opportunity to take more math courses over the period if
Yeah.
they'd like to. Than if it's traditional. Okay, how many, you want to take 4, you want to take 8?
Right, but I mean, saying any subject in general, it just, even a foreign language, if it's not buildable in their schedule, there's also some thought process behind what that looks like in doing it every other day, but keeping it year round. Then your your end of course exams look a little different, right? And then you have.
Well, you
dates to look at.
still end in the second week in May. And
I know.
then if you're gonna go into June 10th, what are you doing with the kids? They're culminating event.
I'm not
the finals
suggesting
are
we go
done
to
in
June
May.
10th, so
Well,
don't,
that,
don't
but
take,
if you
don't take
start,
that.
yeah. Now,
That doesn't change the schedule when you're reading.
right, so, there's
Just other solutions though.
Sure, I don't have them, sorry.
No, I don't either, just things to think about.
So this one ends June 2nd.
Yeah, the way it's set up now, yeah, the kids will come in for that half day on Tuesday after Memorial Day, and the teachers will come in Wednesday for the work day. So kids will come for half day after the weekend of Memorial Day and finish up. Now you can squeeze it. I mean, there's places to squeeze it. We moved our PD days around a little more this year. We front loaded them, or for next year. We front loaded them last year to try to give the kids a little bit more of a delayed start. know, it's squeezing jello. The numbers are, you put it somewhere until whenever we decided we only do 179 days, and that'll change one day somewhere.
Is there anything else? Roll call, please.
This is on.
Everything but
April
item B.
7E. Okay. Mrs. Truster,
Yes.
Mrs. Seoli,
Yes.
Mrs. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Leidig,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes,
Is there a motion for item B?
so moved.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Truster,
Yes.
Mrs. Seoli,
Yes.
Mrs. Foley,
Abstain.
Mr. Leidig.
Yes.
And Mr. Roberts.
Yes,
Mrs. Capo, Chief Financial Officer's report.
Thank you. A, approval of financial reports. The board is asked to approve the financial reports from December 2024 as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer. B, approval of MOU KSU CCP. The board is asked to approve the 2025-26 College Credit Plus Memorandum of Understanding with Kent State University as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer and the Director of Student Services. C, approval of expenditure Staples Chromebooks. The board is asked to approve an expenditure in the amount of $56,532.50 to Staples for 250 HP Chromebooks and Google licenses for education, as recommended by the Director of Technology and Chief Financial Officer. These devices will be for 5th and 9th grade students in the 2025-26 school year. D, approval of tax rates. The board is asked to accept the amounts and rates listed as determined by the Lake County Budget Commission, authorized by the necessary tax levies, and to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to certify them to the county auditor as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer. E, acceptance of award. The board is asked to accept the Healthy Kids Step It Up Challenge Award in the amount of $1,125 and to approve the appropriations for such award be placed in Fund 019-9425 as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer. The challenge was won by Kayla Rathman, and this concludes my Chief Financial Officer's report.
Is there a motion?
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Jen, can you get into the tax rates at all? Just a brief,
What would you like to know? The tax rates themselves haven't changed at all?
so none of those changed?
No.
I know the rates. Yes. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Seoli,
Yes.
Mrs. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Leidig,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes,
Mrs. Truster.
Yes. Unfinished business? Oh, there was an update. The property still has not transferred over to, the village for the Champion Farms. I don't think we got a reason why, just they're working on it. So that's all I know about that right now. Ms. Capo, there wasn't anything else to add to that?
I haven't heard it. I think there's some discussion between the legal counsel, our legal counsel and the village still, but we signed our part,
Right, like December
11th.
Okay. Okay, so there's nothing that they're waiting, that we need to be doing right now.
As far as I'm aware, no.
Okay. Anything else? New business? Superintendent search. So we have the responsibility to move forward and decide on how we're gonna proceed with hiring a new superintendent. Dr. Thompson has said that he's intending to retire at the end of this year and given us enough notice that we can move forward and try to find a suitable replacement. Sounds awkward. So there's different ways that every district goes around this, and so we just need to decide how we're gonna move forward with it, what our plan is, and what our next steps are.
I think it's responsible that we entertain some proposals from search firms.
Okay?
Agreed.
So we will then request, Mr. Gallant, can you reach out to some search firms? Which ones do we have an idea of who we're looking at? I think OSBA would be probably,
I was thinking like K-12, is that one? K-12?
K-12 is yes,
K-12 is one, finding leaders.
finding
one.
leaders. and then the ESC locally, they all do searches.
If we have trouble, like, we need to find out too, if we're gonna do this soon, our format, and what it's gonna look like. If they're gonna present the format, what it looks like and the process looks like. If it's something that we have trouble scheduling amongst ourselves to all be here, is it something they can present to us via Zoom? Or remote presentation?
Sure.
If we're all here for
They
a
can do-
meeting
Yeah, absolutely.
and they can't be here, but we have some time that we could listen in on this is just to get ideas to see what it looks like. If a search firm took over and did the search, we would still have 100% input and determine the who at the end, correct?
So you want proposals from these firms, and then you want them to present at a upcoming meeting.
If that's what they do. Some of them actually do presentations, some don't, I think.
I think we might have questions for them that we would want to ask
Okay,
about the proposal, about the services.
okay. You want them, what date do you want?
So if we can, I think Kathleen can't be here on the 28th.
Okay,
So,
The 23rd.
so we can look at if it's possible to set up the 23rd. We can call a work session for that night if everyone's available. We need to, or we can't. Oh, you're not here. Okay. But this is not something that we're going to be voting on that night. So you could participate via Zoom and hear the presentations as long as we don't, well, we can make a decision, but you wouldn't be part of it.
So
the 23rd, depending what time you started. I could probably be here by 6:15 or 6:30.
So just to be clear, some districts do their own search and their board does the search. And some districts utilize a search firm to help with the search and go through the entire process until even after the person is hired. Right?
Correct.
So all we want to do is see what that process looks like first, before we make a decision on whether or not we're hiring a search firm.
So can we gather proposals and can you distribute them to the board where we do not discuss them, but we can look at them?
Yep. You want the proposals by what date?
What's a reasonable date to ask for them by?
I think they all do searches and they could probably, if we call them tomorrow, we could have them a week to 10 days is probably fair.
I would say by the end of next week.
And then next week. 20,
So the end of next week's the 24th, and then we would just continue on and review them on the 28th if there's any discussion that needs to be had.
do you want to review them, the proposals on the 28th and then have them available? Or do you want to review them and then see if you want to call them in after that?
Well, are we having a meeting 20th or not?
We have a meeting set for the 28th.
So you can join via Zoom,
Right, but I can't vote on anything.
and we may not be voting on anything, right?
Right,
It'll be a
right.
work session where we just want to hear stuff.
Mhm.
Oh, well, I didn't realize we could
Yes,
still
do you
that.
want them here or do you want them available via Zoom? The firms.
Whatever's the most convenient.
Yeah, I'm fine with Zoom. I don't think that everyone needs to be here. I mean, I don't
Me too.
care, but if anyone else feels differently,
So proposals by the 21st with it.
24th.
24th.
Oh, yeah, by the 24th.
Yep.
With potential Zoom presentation, if that's what they do, on the 28th.
Right, so should we lock them in the 28th? I mean,
yes.
or do you?
Because we won't be able to make a decision on who we want to interview or who we want to have back because we won't have a
So
meeting.
you want
make
them
a
to
decision.
present, you want them just to be available for questions?
I think available for questions for me is fine. I don't know what anyone else feels. I mean, I don't know what the proposals are gonna look like, so I don't know.
Because we could set them up on Zoom calls. If you just question, you can do them half-hour intervals, you can do them in hour intervals, or however you want to do it.
Do 3 30-minute ones, how about that?
That's
Do
fine.
what?
Set up 3, if there's potentially 3 firms, they each get 30 minutes to give their proposal,
Or answer
32%.
questions.
verbally or answer questions, yeah. That'd be be combinations.
Well, if they're gonna be prepared to do a presentation, or you want just questions?
I guess whatever they normally do. I mean,
I wouldn't mind like a 10-minute overview.
they
of-
normally give
here's
a
our system.
presentation from my understanding.
Right, with a
Why don't-
Q&A after.
So why don't we do
they give us the
a
proposal
15
in
minutes?
writing.
Yeah, we'll have proposal in writing, give them 15 minutes to tell them about themselves and how they do the process, and then available for question and answers afterwards.
Yes.
And then
So
schedule them, what, about 45 minutes apart?
That seems reasonable.
This is on the 28th.
Mhm.
Could we even bump the meeting up earlier in
5:30.
5 or 5:30?
I'm fine with anything.
Okay, and the first, who do you want to see? You said OSBA?
Do we not want to see it? I just didn't, whatever. So we said finding leaders is one that people use
K-12.
primarily around here, K-12,
ESC Western Reserve.
and then our ESC, and then we'll just bump OSBA out and use those.
It's up to you, you can see
Yeah,
all four.
well. Anyone?
So that's 2,
Three.
That's three.
K-12,
Finding leaders.
finding
and
leaders in the
ESCWR.
ESC.
No OSBA. Okay. And you're gonna start at 5 or 5:30 to air both.
Let's do 5. If
5
if
o'clock.
everyone can make it, I mean, I can do earlier, I don't care, it's,
And do you want time to go through the proposals first before you see them?
yes, please. If you get them ahead of time and you can email them out to
I will
us,
do
we
that.
cannot discuss them amongst each other, but we can
And
look
you
at
can do them
them
once you come in
so
here.
that we're educated on it.
So,
Wait, I thought you just said we were getting their proposals by the 24th.
yes,
So they're just gonna email those to us.
you'll get them by the 24th.
Okay.
But do you guys want to discuss them before they
For our first
present?
presentation.
Like, do you want a half hour to talk about the proposals? Or you just want to bring them in at 5 o'clock?
I'd
Right,
just
wait,
jump in
after.
and then discuss
I
after.
agree, just jump in. We'll
Yeah.
spend a little
So
time.
schedule them at 5, 5:45, and 6:30?
Yep.
Okay.
As this process continues, I know I'm speaking for Mr. Kellogg, as you already inquired with me. How do you want to communicate it? Do you want like regular communications going out to staff and the community? Do you want Mr. Kellogg to put together one with you as a president and, kind of give updates, or what are you thinking? So I don't have to call you and ask, because Mr. Kellogg's gonna ask me. I know this.
I think that's what we'll find out,
So you're
After
not,
we determine our
say
process.
nothing now until,
right?
you don't want to put it out there that on the 24th, you have a work session to talk about anything, or? you
I mean,
don't want
it's announced the same as every other meeting. I don't think we need to make any special announcements as long as we're being consistently open, as we always are,
Okay.
with all the information that we have. I mean, we'll have it noticed and we'll have an agenda put out, and I mean, I don't necessarily, people are more than welcome to come always to any of our meetings, so it's not really any different than.
Okay.
And we'll have it recorded, right? Like we always do, and it'll be available afterwards like we always do.
And is there anything else that you want done on the front end? Do you want any notification? Do you want to post that separately? You want the firms to handle that? You want to wait until you see proposals?
I don't wanna put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
I think we need to determine our process before we put something
Okay.
out.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep. So the
What
first
you
step
were
is
asking-
notifying firms, setting them up and getting their information here.
What you just asked about Alan putting communication out, are you referring to the search itself?
No, just,
Updates on
I
where we
didn't know,
are with the
I was
process?
just kind of open-ended question.
Okay.
How, we've talked about communication for 14 years here with me, and now I get to ask it to you. So how do you want this communicated out to our constituencies, to our stakeholders, to our community? You don't have to answer tonight, but think about that, and maybe the search firm or whoever proposals will give you that.
Well, I definitely want it to be open to the community, so they know like the process all along, but as far as the initial meeting, like we notice all of our, I mean, unless anyone feels differently, like,
No, I just asked them
yeah.
to have you think about it, because I had enough discussion with Mr. Kellogg, communication director. He's gonna ask it, so now he doesn't have to.
I think it's important as we go through the process though, to keep staff
Oh,
informed.
yeah,
Agreed.
yeah,
Right,
without a
right.
doubt.
My,
So once we get going, we will decide those communication points and updating. Here's the progress we've made, here's the path we're taking.
That's my thinking.
Full transparency, yes.
Thank you.
And we're looking at, this is gonna be a couple month process
mhm.
overall, just to give community kind of a timeline, right? I don't want anybody thinking that, oh, this is gonna be wrapped up by, the next 30 days, because it won't be.
No,
We're
so
thinking it's gonna
it's a
take a couple
process.
months, it's a process.
Anything else? Correspondence and announcements, there was a nutrition group in here for the board, so everyone can have this little flyer.
No, I'm gonna attach it to my.
I don't think we didn't get any other correspondences. Upcoming meetings. The district will be closed on January 20th, 2025 for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. There will be a Board of Education work session held on January 28th at 5:00 PM, right? We decided 5:00 in the Tarbuck Center Conference Room. The next Board of Education regular meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 11th, 2025 at 5:45 PM in the Tarbuck Center Conference Room. Is there any other public participation? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Lydic,
yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dexter,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones, yes.
You're gonna send out a new calendar.